Dear colleagues, dear our guests, we would like to welcome you to our fourth webinar, namely Climate Positive Growth, which is prepared by CWEEL Turkey. The Association of Energy Engineers is a non-profit organization of 18,000 members in 105 countries, with a network of over 100 local chapters, plus more than 20 student chapters and 7 CWEEL chapters. AEE Turkey chapter was established in cooperation with Turkish Society of HVAC and Sanitary Engineers. AEE Turkey supports the scientific and educational activities of our colleagues in energy sector and promotes actions for sustainable development. The association plans online international energy management certificate program and training such as certified energy manager. For over 14 years, CWEEL has been committed to advancing gender equality and empowering the roles of women in energy and environment sector. Accordingly, CWEEL Turkey chapter has started its actions in cooperation with TTMD in order to leverage opportunities for women in this sector. Today, we will have our fourth webinar with dear Danish Consul General Anette Galskjøt and our valuable moderator, who is Gülcan Ergün. I would like to give the floor to Gülcan Ergün. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Merve Hanım. I would like to welcome you all again to our new session of the CWEEL Talks. For those of you who are following us for the first time, you may also want to take a look at the previous sessions, which are on the association's, downloaded on the association's YouTube channel. Taking from what we have discussed the last time, in the last section I mentioned the recent UNDP report, which is headed The Next Frontier, Human Development and the Anthropocene. So now the scientists are discussing that we are entering or have already entered a new geological age, which is called the Anthropocene, namely the human age. This is different from the past ages because in the past geological stages, nature was the major transformer of our planet. But this time, in this age, humans have become the major actors in transforming the planet. And we are doing a bad job actually at it because we put enormous pressure on our ecosystem and endangering many species actually, including ourselves. 2 decades ago, maybe even a decade ago, we were reading reports on how our actions will affect the climate and our world in general. Maybe today we don't even need to read these reports any longer because we are actually witnessing what is going on. We are the maybe the next generations will define us as the first generation to witness these drastic changes. Just a couple of days ago, I'm sure that you may follow on the news, a huge glacier burst in the Himalayas, destroying a dam, causing massive flooding, and then devastating the living areas nearby, causing death and injuries, unfortunately. I mean, we don't even need to look far away. Istanbul, one of the major cities in Turkey, is facing risk of shortage of water because it just simply doesn't rain in the middle of winter. Just started raining, but it's not enough. It's just to save the day, actually. But on the contrary, in another city, Izmir, which is just like 5 hours drive away, has received almost 20% of its annual rainfall in just one day. So we faced with many different drastic climate changes now. So it's apparent that we need to take action if we want to develop and survive at the same time. But our actions should be climate positive, sustainable, and circular actions, and we need to start it from now so that the next generations may call us the first generation to take real action towards climate change, adapting the climate change, and to have a sustainable world. Having said that, today we are delighted to have Danish Consul General Ms. Anette Galskjøt with us. I would like to welcome and thank you for being here today with us. We will have a half an hour discussion about these topics. Then we will have a 10 to 15 minutes Q&A session. So dear participants, please write down your questions, and at the end of the discussion session, we will have the opportunity to discuss them as well. So my first discussion point, Consul General, how do you perceive the current global situation and the situation globally and at the EU level? Do you think that really action is about to take place towards a more sustainable world? Or are we just still discussing how important it is to have climate positive economy? Is it now an urgent matter of action now?
Thank you very much, and let me start by thanking you for inviting me here today. It's my great pleasure to again be attending a webinar with you as the moderator. It was another scenery last time, but I was very happy with the invitation, and as always, we from Denmark are very happy with sharing our views and experiences on this matter. I think that you may say that one of the only positive things that have come out of the corona crisis is actually that the EU, among others, have realized that it is now or never. And in order to actually restore the economy, which has been so badly bruised during the last year, we need to also look at sustainable green solutions to this. The EU already in 2013 adopted quite an ambitious climate action plan, and this was followed by the Paris Agreement in 2015, which was a global agreement. And it's so nice to see that the US, with the shift of presidency and President Biden re-entering the Paris Agreement, now we also again have the US backing this. That was the next step, and the third step in the climate change discussion was the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals. As we all know, in 2015 also put a global focus on sustainability and to a very large extent sustainability within the environmental issues. So I think actually all the EU countries and the EU as such have been focusing a lot the last 7 years on climate change and climate change impact and environmental challenges. But to be frank, I think the push that we all needed, and especially certain EU countries that haven't really taken this agenda as serious for many reasons, I think not out of bad will, but also from an economic challenging position. Some of the less fortunate EU countries have had very many difficulties with this. And a country like Denmark, of course, we're so small, and we have been lucky that we've had the financial means to actually put action behind the plans that we have been making. But I will return to the Danish perspective. But from the EU side, I think this corona crisis has meant that everybody, all the heads of government, have decided that it's now or never. And also the countries that were reluctant to follow this agenda have given in and backed up this enormous new Green Deal plan that the EU has decided. The EU has put more than 1.8 trillion euros behind recovering the European economy. With the EU Recovery Fund, we are seeing a never seen before amount of money, resources, forces put behind restoring the economy in Europe with a very environmental and green focus. It's a requirement for the countries in the EU that the initiatives that they will be doing to restore their economy locally in the 27 EU countries will be very focused on the green agenda and environmental issues and green recovery. So yes, I actually think there's hope in the future, and I think that we have realized that we are so challenged by this pandemic that we do need to act, and we do need to act in unity and together as EU.
Okay, from what I understand, then the pandemic has actually accelerated the process towards taking real action for green recovery and sustainability. Maybe we can say that something good has come out of this bad experience. Well, turning towards Denmark's position on sustainability, and actually within the context of maybe the climate action SDG and the sustainable cities perspective, what are your observations? How is Denmark doing in terms of green recovery?
Well, we are of course doing remarkably well. No, we are. But the thing is that this is not new to Denmark. For many reasons, already back in the 1970s, Denmark took some quite drastic steps towards a greener economy. And this was not really driven by the knowledge that this is necessary from a climate perspective, but it was driven by an economic notion that the oil prices were too high back in the 70s for us to afford, because at that time we hadn't recovered any of our own oil resources. This was happening quite in parallel to the oil prices being very, very high. And at that time, some very clever engineers came up with the notion of district energy and started applying this principle that taking the leftover heat from coal-fired plants, from factories, and directing this heat into pipes under the cities, and thereby you would use a resource which would otherwise become idle, and you could heat up a whole city in a much more economical way. And at the same time, this has now become a much more environmental friendly way. But it was not something that we can say we were very foresighted, and we had the idea that the climate was threatened already back in the 70s, and therefore we had to come up with a new plan. It was simply an economic pressing matter that forced us to think differently at these times. And today, a city like Copenhagen is 99% heated by district energy, and the whole country of Denmark, more than 60% of Denmark, is heated with district energy. And the beauty of district energy is that the source you put behind the piping system that you put into place in the cities, that can be a sustainable source. So from using coal-fired power plants and fossil fuels to heat up the cities through just district energy, we actually can now use biomass and bioplants and solar energy, and with the new Power-to-X technology, we're hoping we might be able at some point also to use wind power. And so it's proven to be a super sustainable way of transforming your energy consumption. And therefore, you know, it's nice to sometimes be lucky to have one challenge, and then when you solve it, you actually solve another challenge. And this is a little bit the same with the pandemic. We have a huge challenge, but now we realize that if we pull our forces together, we might actually also at the same time be able to do something about the environmental challenge, which is threatening the whole world and also a country like Denmark. And so after that, we put 37 national targets in place to implement the SDGs. And in 2018, we did a status report, and we are doing quite well on all the parameters. The UN has complimented Denmark for its progress in implementing the SDGs. And the SDGs have become a natural element in discussing business in Denmark. It's embedded in everything we do. Every business in Denmark has somewhere in their business plan the mentioning of the relevant SDG that they are working with, be it healthcare and SDG 3, be it water and SDG 6, energy SDG 7. It's all become natural talk on the director level of all the large Danish companies. So that's I think that's very good news. One of the latest news that we have is that we have just decided to build a huge offshore wind farm, which is really the largest ever built, and this will increase our electricity generation from wind by around 12%. This will have a total capacity of 407 megawatt with 49 wind turbines, and it will cover annual electricity consumption of about 500,000 Danish households. So it's a huge project, and today almost 70% of our electricity consumption is based on renewable energy, and of course we're quite proud of that and very happy that we can be a front runner in this way. But of course we also realize that it's much easier for a country of 5 million people, which is like a third of the city of Istanbul, in which I'm so happy to be a resident these days. And therefore things are probably easier for us, but at the same time it's good to see that our government is very serious about the plan that they made when they came into office in 2019. Their plan, very quickly they came out and said that by 2030 we would be 70% CO2 neutral in Denmark. And as you probably know, the EU goal is to be CO2 neutral by 2050 for all of the EU countries. So in that way, we are trying to front run the EU agenda, and a city like Copenhagen expects to be CO2 neutral by 2025 as the first capital in the world. And Denmark and Copenhagen has actually proven to put action behind their goals for the last 25 years. So I have very big hope that this will actually be possible, but it's only 4 years from now. So they are quite busy implementing all the right strategies that will facilitate this.
Great. So maybe the turning point for Denmark was the oil crisis, and then in 50 years there has been a real change towards sustainability. It's a very good example actually for all of us, but of course, as you have mentioned, the scales are very important at the moment, and the size of the country, the population differs from country to country, and it's a challenge as well, both economically and socially. It's also I think the people of Denmark has the reflex or the culture to be sustainable right now after 50 years of the behavioral change towards having a more green life. And that's also very important, the policies, the implementations, but at the same time, people people's behaviors need to shift towards a more sustainable approach as well. So having said that, how would you, what are your observations now living in also in Istanbul about Turkey's approach to these issues? What do you think about that?
I think Turkey is taking these issues very serious, and we fortunately have a lot of very good examples of this, and we have very good cooperation with both local government and the government in Ankara on sustainability and energy and environmental related actions. So if I can mention one of the main ones, it's that we back in 2015 launched what we call government-to-government cooperation in the Danish Foreign Ministry, and in 2017 we signed the first agreement with
Okay, I think the connection with Consul General is now a little bit unstable, so we cannot hear her at the moment. Just if we can just wait for a few minutes. I also would like to remind you that you may write down any questions, if there are, to the Q&A box. Okay, here you are again. You're muted at the moment, if you can.
I'm back again.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm sorry about that. It might have been my I don't know how much of all my babbling you managed to record. But I don't know, what was the last thing that you managed to hear?
Well, you were talking about the governmental cooperation between Turkey and Denmark the last time you were, okay.
Very good. So this cooperation was initiated in 2017 and is about district energy and offshore wind. And we renewed we signed a new agreement in 2019 for a 3-year extension of this cooperation. And it is quite a successful cooperation in the sense that the Danish Energy Agency in Copenhagen is advising the climate or the Ministry of Energy in Ankara on a new heat legislation. So trying to find measures of putting a framework of legislation around heating. And this could also be a way of introducing district energy that I talked about before in Turkey. And this would be very applicable for Turkey, since it's very useful in cities where there's a dense number of houses, and Turkey is more than 80% urbanized today, and therefore, you know, with a lot of new buildings and houses being built all the time in the larger cities of Turkey, and this kind of energy sourcing is super useful. And you can start by taking the gas or oil or coal-fired power plants and put them behind the system, and then gradually transition into a more green energy source. But the energy efficiency you get out of implementing this is quite important and quite amazing. And we've been taking Danish companies like Danfoss and Grundfos and AET to see the government in Turkey, in Ankara, and also to visit different local governments around in the country. And it seems that there is a huge interest and appetite for Danish technology, which of course is a great pleasure for us. But also being able to just have this government-to-government cooperation where there's no business or no involved is that's where the sort of strategic discussions occur, and then the businesses can come afterwards and show how we have done it in Denmark. And luckily we've seen a very big appetite for this. The latest initiative we are doing now with the Turkish Union of Municipalities and Marmara Union of Municipalities is on water management, because as you said, Istanbul is water deprived because it's not raining enough. And so we have entered into a cooperation with these Union of Municipalities, together with a Danish utility called Aarhus Vand. Aarhus is the second largest city in Denmark. And Aarhus Vand is providing technical assistance to the municipalities through 4 webinars. We have already had one. Next week we have the next one, or this week. I think it's next week, and 2 more. And we've seen an enormous interest from the Turkish municipalities in learning about how have we managed to become this successful in our water management. Denmark is purely sourced by groundwater, and we have managed to introduce really efficient wastewater management and clean drinking water technologies. And of course, we're very happy to transfer some of this knowledge to Turkey if anybody's interested. And as I can see, a lot of people are very interested in this. So that's very positive. And this in Istanbul then also coincides with Istanbul city being a member of the big climate change organization C40. They are now being offered technical assistance also in respect of water and water management in a program which is sponsored by Danish company Grundfos and run by C40, and also actually with the technical assistance from Copenhagen municipality. So it's another very good example of good cooperation between Denmark and Turkey. And in this water project, we are also using the Turkish consultancy REC that are coming up with a very interesting report on water management in Turkey for us to use in this project. And the last thing I want to mention is that we in October last year had a joint economic consultation with the Minister of Trade in Ankara and the Foreign Ministry in Copenhagen. Foreign trade matters belong to the Foreign Ministry, and the Trade Council is part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So this is why it was our Minister of Foreign Affairs discussing with your Minister for Trade. And it was a very positive discussion. And the bottom line was that the $2 billion in trade among our countries that we have right now should definitely become a much larger amount. So we have decided that we should definitely continue this positive cooperation and see how we can increase the trade volume between our countries.
Great. It's really great to hear that there's this cooperation between the 2 countries, the local governments and the government showing much interest in this cooperation. And if you may maybe just point out, how do you think the businesses in Turkey are approaching this sustainability and climate positive growth issue in terms of, if the Turkish businesses trading with foreign countries need to be really very careful about what is to come in terms of borders, carbon borders applications. So how do you think the Turkish businesses are approaching to this issue at the moment?
I think Turkish businesses are very much aware that 60% of the trade volume goes to the EU, and with EU becoming much more focused on climate change issues and environmental impact of technologies, there is a pressing need for Turkey to show that you can produce goods in a more sustainably friendly manner. And I think that is happening right now. We have a lot of good Turkish partners that are very interested in dealing with Danish companies, in learning about, you know, what are we doing in Denmark, which kind of technologies are the most applicable, how can we do partnerships together, how can we learn from each other, both within energy and water, but also within agriculture and food food production, sustainable food production, and focus on food security and less food loss is very interesting to Turkish companies. And the chairman of the Turkish-Danish Business Council, Mr. Emre İnce, he is the head of Tekfen Agro, and he's very interested in increasing the trade volume between Denmark and Turkey, also within sustainable food production. And he's doing a great job in promoting Turkish-Danish business cooperation. It's a business council under DAIC, and so we are very happy to see that there's a positive attitude towards what we are trying to achieve in Denmark, and we only meet, I think, positive engagements all around with anybody that we speak to, be it local government, be it government in Ankara, or be it Turkish businesses or business organizations. So in that respect, I'm very positive that there's definitely a basis for increasing the trade volumes between the countries. Another area is sustainable textile production. Turkey, of course, is a huge producer of textiles, and Denmark is sourcing a lot of its textiles from Turkey. A lot of the big Danish brands are sourcing from Turkey, and with the focus on nearshoring and sourcing from Europe that we see now because of the pandemic, where sourcing became very challenged from China and the Far East, I think Turkey has a brilliant opportunity of stepping in as a very attractive alternative to sourcing from the Far East in a more sustainable manner, because transportation is less and technologies in Turkey are more advanced in many ways than they are in some of the countries in the Far East. So I think also here, this basis of increasing the trade volume between the countries.
Yeah, very important opportunities that you are mentioning at the moment. Maybe lastly, I would like to just ask you again, you are giving us a very positive approach, and I'm very happy. It's also a realistic one, actually. I think that we are not only Turkey or Denmark, at the global level, we are capable of, as humans, to have a sustainable world at the end. How do you really perceive in the next 10 years? Do you really think that in terms of fulfilling the SDGs and shifting towards maybe more of a circular economy, is it really going to be a change that we will feel, we will witness in our lifetime? Because there's this recent report from Circle Economy, I think, that last year they have measured again, as they did always, the circularity gap report. They are mentioning it's around the world is around like 8.6% to 9% circular only. Do you really think that we will have a real change in the next decade or so? What would you say?
I hope so, but these things take time. You know, as I said, we began the transition in Denmark in the 70s, and now we're doing really well for the last years, but still we have a long way to go if we want to be CO2 neutral by 2030 or 70% by 2030. And I think in a country like Turkey with 82 million people and a total different economic situation than we have in Denmark. It's definitely a huge task. It's a super tanker that needs to be turned around. But I think we see positive signals coming out of the government in Ankara, and with the smart city strategy being launched last year in January, putting a very ambitious target on the cities as to introducing new sustainable urbanization measures, both in respect of energy and water and climate. I think there are absolutely the will, and I think there's also the interest both from the EU and from and countries like Denmark. I think there are challenges. We see now, luckily, that the discussions between the EU countries and Turkey are opening up, so that's very positive. And we see that companies and municipalities and government wants to be more focused on the climate actions, and we see that there's an interest from the companies going to Turkey. But we still have huge issues in Turkey. Like we all know, there's the Danish companies and European companies have to be ensured that they can trust rule of law when they come to establish themselves in Turkey. That's an issue. There's an issue on human rights. We see differently on these issues, and this is very important to Europeans and to also to Danish companies. So there are some structural issues in Turkey that I hope the government will be working with, which will encourage even more European companies to trade with Turkey. Whether we in our time will see a real transition, it's a good question, because it does really take a lot of time. But I can see that the next generation, my children, and the generation of that are in their 20s, are much more focused on climate impact, on eating in a different manner, on working for sustainable causes. So in that way, I have hopes that the next generations are actually born into a world where this is very necessary, where those of us who are not, it can be difficult to change the attitudes of us 50 pluses, and our lifestyle and our red meat on the plate every day and these kind of things. But I think it will change, and I think it's the little things that will matter. If we all think about what can we do, how can we recycle, how can we maybe eat a little less meat every day, maybe we travel a little bit less. That's not an issue right now because we don't travel anywhere, but and that has had a positive impact on the world last year in respect of less air traffic. But when the world opens again, and I'm saying a very big when, because I am a positive, optimistic soul, when the world opens again, I hope that people will think twice about how they live and how they travel. And I think if we all just do a little bit, that combined with the goodwill of the governments and of the companies and initiatives like the SDGs and like the Paris Agreement, organizations like C40, all that combined gives me hope that we will get there and we will move towards a more sustainable lifestyle and reach the 1.5% and hopefully not see so many of these horrible natural catastrophes. We also had a big one in Norway recently, just before Christmas, and of course it's devastating. The earthquakes in Croatia. There are lots of examples that reminds us every day that this is very important. But I think it starts with you and me and our habits, and then hopefully it will all trickle up and down and gives us hope that things will change.
Excellent. Really, very, very positive messages, and I completely agree. Actually, I'm also hopeful about the future as well, and maybe really the next generations will say that this generation messed up a little, but also found its way to a more sustainable world. Just checking whether we have any questions from the audience at the moment. But I think I've asked all the questions, so no, there are no questions from the audience for now. I'm just checking again, but I think, yeah, okay. We know we have no questions at the moment from the audience, and but it was a very nice discussion, and really very important points that you have mentioned, and I hope that we will at least see the changes within our lifetimes, even if it is not so much, but it starts with small steps, as you have mentioned. We will change ourselves first, and then the big change will come, hopefully.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much for being here with us today, and hope to see you in another webinar, hopefully.
Or maybe even for a coffee in Istanbul when we can, we are allowed to do that again.
Yeah, which I would like very much so. Okay, I also say, maybe you come to Izmir whenever you come. I can also have you for coffee.
Thank you so much for inviting me again, and very nice and very important subjects that you're bringing up, and I really like your equal opportunity focus also, and it's a pleasure to be here, two women discussing all of these important matters, and I think we will continue, hopefully, changing things to the positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, dear participants, thank you very much for watching us. See you next time in the CWEEL Talks.